By virtues of the power granted by the Privy Council, the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland is this day holding a congregation for the conferment of degrees. Our ceremony begins with a conferment of an honorary degree. The authority of degree awarding powers resides with the Academic Board of the Conservatoire, which may confer an honorary degree of doctor upon any person it considers has made a truly outstanding contribution to their profession and whose achievements richly deserve high distinction and recognition. I now invite Professor Dorothy Meal, Chair of the Board of Governors, to introduce the sponsor for the honorary graduate.
Principal Sharkey, I now invite Dr. Oliver Searle, Interim Head of Composition, to sponsor Garth Knox for the degree of Doctor of Music. Dr. Searle is co-sponsoring, along with David Fennessy, Lecturer in Composition, who cannot be with us today.
Chairman, Governors of the Conservatoire, members of the Academic Board, colleagues, graduands, huge congratulations, by the way, families and friends. Before I begin, I should say that the address I'm about to read was written with my colleague in the Composition Department, David Fennessy. David is the co-sponsor with the Composition Department and has worked directly with Garth on many occasions, but is out of the country for work on a composition project at the current time, so I'm reading this as him. I should say that I will do this without David's Irish accent, of which I am very jealous. For almost every composer I know, the very concept of the viola as a musical instrument, what it can do, what it's for, where the extremes of its capabilities lie, what its greatest hits are, and the name Garth Knox are indivisible from one another. A bit like Wally in the Where's Wally books, Garth, as soloist, member of a quartet or in an ensemble, can be found in or around the inauguration of a staggering number of what are now regarded as classics of the late 20th, early 21st century music involving the instrument. He was there, with or without the red and white striped jumper, we're not sure, at the birth of new music by the following: Georgi Ligeti, for whom he premiered parts of the Sonata for Solo Viola; Yanis Xenakis, the late great Kaya Saariaho, she wrote her Von Nocturne for viola and electronics for him; Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, Garth was one of the 4 musicians in a helicopter in the first performance of the famous Helicopter Quartet. That's pretty cool, right? Pierre Boulez, Georgi Kurtag, Salvatore Chirino, Alfred Schnittke, Hans Werner Henze, whose viola sonata was premiered by and dedicated to Garth at the tender age of 23. The list reads like an index of famous modern European composers you have heard of. Garth was invited by Pierre Boulez to be the violist in his ensemble Anticontemporain in Paris in 1983, and after 7 years' service there, he joined the Arditi Quartet in London. In 1998, he left the quartet to concentrate on his solo career. It seemed, when I was first becoming interested in new music, that the back cover of every world premiere recording of a major new work involving viola would have the name Garth Knox printed somewhere on it, as well as numerous recordings with the ensemble Anticontemporain, and especially with the Arditi Quartet. His first solo CD, Works for Viola, on Naive Records, won the coveted Deutsche Schallplattenpreis, and Viola d'Amore with ECM Records was Record of the Month in the British magazine Gramophone. I remember the first time I became aware of his playing was as I pored over the liner notes to the seminal 2005 recording of Gérard Grisset's monumental cycle L'Espace Acoustique. The piece begins with the prologue for solo viola, a seemingly innocuous proposition on paper, but in listening to it, I was transfixed by this strange, sinewy, endlessly evolving melody full of unfamiliar colours, noises, and weird tunings. Was this even a viola? Were there electronics I was hearing? I realized later that what I was listening to was a dropped B scordatura and stacked intervals of the harmonic spectrum in what was my first engagement with the term spectralism. The thing that really struck me, though, was how communicative it was. This was not some dry academic rendering of a compositional principle, but the expression of a deep musical conviction. It was all the notes in the score, and in the right order, but crucially, it was played with personality. As well as his innate musicality, his ridiculous mastery of technique, his understanding of how to shape and finesse even the most challenging contours, it was Garth's humanity which was shining through as he played, and his generosity. If you are lucky enough to work with him as a composer, as I have been on several times, Garth illuminates your innermost thoughts. He articulates your voice, but he does it with his own inflection, his own accent. Let us consider that accent for a moment. One of the most engaging aspects of watching Garth perform is the beautiful way in which he addresses the audience. Conversational, informal, with a little sparkle in his eye. The warmth of his voice acts as an irresistible invitation to the world of the music. He can make the most complex polyphony appear light and easy, imbue the simplest air with the most profound meaning. But the accent, is it Irish, Scottish, little French? Garth Knox was born in Dublin, the youngest of 4 siblings who all played a variety of musical instruments. As he puts it himself, everyone in my family played an instrument. 2 sisters played violin and my brother played cello. We needed a viola player, so the last born, which is me, I was born the viola player. When he was 5, the family moved to Aberdeen, and again, in his own words, when I was 11, as soon as I could reach the end of a viola, I changed. His talents led him eventually to study at the Royal College of Music in London with Frederick Riddle. He eventually settled in Paris, where he met his Argentinian wife, Valentina, and raised his 2 boys, Matteo and Killian. He still has family in Scotland and visits here often. His son attends the University of Glasgow. Garth's contribution to musical Scottish life is distinguished and long-standing. He has given the premiere of countless works by Scottish and Scotland-based composers, including Sally Beamish, James Dillon, our very own Professor Rory Boyle, as well as recent RCS graduate Nora Maritzaiter. He is regularly invited to perform at Sound Festival in Aberdeen, the Night With New Music series here in Glasgow, and was acknowledged in 2019 as Performer of the Year by the Scottish New Music Awards. Indeed, Garth's support and encouragement of the younger generation is key to understanding his motivations as a musician. He is visiting professor of viola at the Royal Academy of Music and held a similar post at the Musicena in San Sebastian. He is constantly in demand as a leader of masterclasses at every major conservatoire in Europe, spends his summer engaging with young musicians at summer courses in Lucerne, Geneva, Alsace, Vilnius, Madrid, and all over the world. And he has sat on the jury of the Prague Spring Viola Competition, the Amsterdam Viola Competition, the Yuri Bashmet International Viola Competition, and so on and so on. The International Viola Society awarded their Silver Clef 2020 to Garth for lifetime achievement and contribution to the viola world. Garth's contributions to the viola and string repertoire as a composer are highly significant and reflect the joy and spirit of experimentation that he exudes in his playing. His viola spaces and violin spaces, a series of ongoing concert etudes published by Schott, have been taken up by students all over the world, and he was commissioned by the Kronos Quartet in 2015 to compose Satellites as part of their prestigious 50 for the Future project. What he himself describes as instrumental theatre seems the logical meeting place of Garth's activities as a composer, performer, and communicator. He has recently become a pioneer of the viola d'amore, exploring its possibilities in new music with and without electronics, and is in the process of creating a new repertoire for that instrument. He has received commissions from the Festival d'Automne in Paris, Pro Quartet in France, Concord Ensemble in Ireland, Lucéline Ensemble in Luxembourg, Tokyo International Viola Competition in Japan, Camerata Variabile in Switzerland, and Radio France. These days, Garth can as regularly be found improvising with jazz musicians in a basement club or banging out jigs and reels with traditional musicians as performing on the stages of the world's most prestigious concert halls, though he continues to do all of these things. In his own words, I try to keep it as natural as I can. I think the greatest music is the music that comes from nowhere, like folk music. No one writes these tunes, they just came into being. I try and let the instruments speak for themselves, let the things that are here make music. It therefore gives me great pleasure to ask the Principal to confer the degree of Doctor of Music, honoris causa, upon Garth Knox.
Garth, by virtue of the powers granted by the Privy Council to the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland to confer an honorary degree of the Conservatoire upon any person it may deem worthy of such distinction, and in the name of the Academic Board, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Music honoris causa. Many congratulations. I now invite Dr. Garth Knox to address our graduates, please.
Good morning. I'd like first to start by saying how surprised, honoured and delighted I am to accept this doctorate from the RCS. I'm surprised because I've been living in France for the last 20 years, and although I've been coming to the RCS sometimes over that period, I didn't really know they were following my activities so closely, so this is a great honour for me. I'm honoured because I have a great esteem for the RCS here in Scotland. I know some of the excellent professors you have. I've worked with some of the students, so I know the level is very high. And I admire greatly the creative programs they propose here, looking ahead to the future, to wonder what the future of our business is going to be, if our job, our performing arts is going to be. And I'm especially delighted to be sharing the day with all you real graduates over there who've done all the hard work and actually deserved your degrees. It's a great pleasure for me to see you all here. I don't feel in a very strong position to give you any real advice of any type, partly because the world is changing so fast that I think that probably people of your generation are better placed to understand it than people of mine. And I had no career strategy in mind when I started, and I didn't really follow any of the normal paths. I just kind of did what felt right to me at the time, and I was lucky enough that it turned out well for me, so I'm not really a role model to follow. But what I could suggest is I could talk to you about two skills which have been extremely helpful for me all through my career and through my choices, and these are listening and lucidity. It seems strange to talk to musicians about listening, but actually the more I think about it, the more I realize it's the essential activity of music making and music receiving, is listening. And lucidity is something for me just seeing clearly and deciding what is important, or knowing what is important and what is not important. When you put these two things together, you get something extraordinary. There's a story of Arthur Rubinstein, the famous concert pianist, who went to see Debussy at the beginning of the 20th century, and he knocked on the door, and the door was answered by Debussy's little girl, who said, "Papa's gone out for 10 minutes, he said you were to come in and wait." So Rubinstein walked into the salon, he saw the piano, so naturally enough he sat down and started to play. And he could see the little girl was listening to him. So he played this very flashy piece by Liszt and finished and turned to the little girl and said, "Well, little girl, do I play better than your papa?" And the little girl looked at him and says, "Yes, you play better than Papa, but he listens better." And I think when you listen to Debussy's music, what you're hearing is his way of listening. And Debussy heard things in music which no one had heard before, and he managed to express them in his own music, and he shared with everybody his art of listening, and it revolutionized music totally. And all the composers I admire are the composers like this who really listen in a very special way. John Cage elevated the act of listening to an art form in his famous piece 4 minutes 33 seconds of silence, in which the audience is invited to listen to the ambient noises where they are for 4 minutes 33 seconds and to consider that a piece of music. And more recently, Gérard Griset, who was mentioned earlier, the French composer, said that we should think of music as being made not with notes, but with sounds, and that sounds are living beings that are born, grow, and die. And so a composer becomes a bit like a gardener who plants his sound and encourages it to grow and helps to form its shape and finds a gentle way for it to move out of the way to make room for the next sound. All these composers are the people who've taught me half I know about music, I think. And I've been very lucky, as Oliver was pointing out, to have met some of the most fantastic people, like Ligeti and Kortag and all these people. They really taught me how to listen. They were great listeners, all of them. And as he also mentioned, I'd like to mention that Kaya Sariaho, I think the world has lost one of their great listening musicians last month in Paris. She was a good friend and a great, wonderful person, wonderful composer. Very sad she's gone. But there you are. The other half of what I learned about music, I learned from playing with people who were better than me. Because the really good musicians know how to listen. They're the ones who listen. And when you play with someone who's really listening well, it makes you play much better. The better you're listened to, the better you play. And what is a teacher other than someone who knows how to listen to the students in the right way and to help them to listen to themselves? I think it's the most important part of teaching. So I'd like to thank all those great musicians I played with who taught me so much and taught me how to listen. I'd like to thank, in passing, the 3 ex-members of my family string quartet here present today, who accompanied my first stumbling steps in chamber music almost 60 years ago now. Thank you very much. In spite of it all, I made it. And I started my career playing in big orchestras, then I moved to chamber orchestras, then I joined a chamber ensemble, and then I joined a string quartet, and then I started doing solo recitals. And in each case, the listening became more and more focused and more precise. There's different ways of listening in different ensembles, of course. And I began to realize what the fundamental role of the performing musician really is. I mean, obviously it's to play the music, but there's something as important, if not more important than that, and that is leading the listening. So you're sending the sound and at the same time leading the listening. Because you have to be your own first listener. And people hear the music by the way you hear it. And you hear it by the way they hear it. And you have to set up this circle of listening, which means that it's like an oral microscope that shows everything in great, great detail and focuses in on what's important and what's not important. And that, for me, is the fundamental role of a musician who's sharing music with a listening audience, by listening yourself. So this advice is not just for musicians, by the way. If there are any actors here this morning, I don't know if they are, but professional actors spend most of their lives listening to the other actors saying their lines. And of course, the way they listen to those lines changes completely the way the audience hears those lines, or anyone who's watching. It's a very important role to be the listener on stage. And someone who's dancing, of course, when you dance in an ensemble, you have to listen to the other dancers with the size of your body like a fish swimming in the sea. You know how people are moving by how you listen to them. And I think in general, for all of us, listening and lucidity can teach us many things. I think you have to listen to what people are saying to you, and you have to use your lucidity to understand what's behind what they're saying to you. You have to listen to the world around about you and use your lucidity to understand what's going on and what your place in it is. And you have to listen to yourself to try and recognize what is genuine and sincere and what is not. And as my closing remarks, I would like to say to all of you, congratulations, well done, bravo. And today you've really done something you can prove. Normally in our business, the performing arts, you do something and it's beautiful while it lasts, and when it's over, it's gone forever. Today you have something you can bore your grandchildren with and say, look, I have something in my hand to show for it all. And second, that I say good luck in your lives and in your careers. I know you're all going to be greatly creative with both your careers and your lives, and I know this because you're going to have to be. And lastly, I'd like to say, happy listening, and don't forget the lucidity. Thank you.
Of Dr. Garth Knox.
I now invite the directors to present the graduands for their awards.
Principal, I present to you this graduate who has been awarded the degree of Doctor of Philosophy by the University of St Andrews, having successfully completed a programme of study at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. For a thesis entitled Portfolio of Original Compositions, Dr. Timothy Cooper. Principal, I present to you this graduate who has been awarded the degree of Doctor of Performing Arts by the University of St Andrews, having successfully completed a programme of study at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. For a thesis entitled Transcription and Performance of Franz Schubert's Music for Guitar, Dr. Sasha Savaloni.
Principal, in the name of the School of Drama, Dance, Production and Film, and with the authority of the Academic Board of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, I present to you these graduates who have found worthy to receive the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Production, Arts and Design. Alexander Baird. Petra Crace. Hope Drummond. Patrick Gallagher. Isadora Goff. Margot Lemaire d'Autreo. Sam Mackey. Kirsty McMillan. Genevieve Metcalf. Ruth Murdoch. Ryan Naktrab. Isaac Nicole Smith. Emma Palmer. Hannah Pickering. Alexandra Ringvall. Danielle Scott. Sophie Shaw. Angelique Van Rooyen. With the authority of the Academic Board of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, I present to you these graduates who have been found worthy to receive the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Production, Technology and Management. Anna Athanaste. Chloe Chang Chong. Excuse me, Lewis Brown. Chloe Chang Chong. Viola Nicola Fowler. Ewan Fraser. Regan Graham. Fraser Mackey. Ria Mitsuhashi. Lauren Morrison. Thomas O'Hare. Aisha Aniola Oyedepo. Anne Peart. Pippa Riley. Caitlin Riddle. Scotty Scott. Thomas Sedgwick. Leo Witwer.
Principal, in the name of the School of Music and with the authority of the Academic Board of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, I present to you these graduates who have been found worthy to receive the award of Artist Diploma in Music. Changrong B. Insitsao. Maria Elise Heretsvela. Shinlin. Anna Mikkels. Lu Zhen. With the authority of the Academic Board of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, I present to you these graduates who have been found worthy to receive the degree of Master of Music. In composition, Thomas Jonne. Callum Hussain. Jessica McIsaac. Michael Maftian. Ailey Ormston. Melissa Rankin. Erin Thompson. James Westerby. In conducting, Magnus Müller. Vincent Wiguna. In performance, Laura Coppinger. William Costello. Heiltje de Bruin. Ziyi Dan. Ushwan Ding. Mark Elwes. Dylan Finlay. Ryan Garnon. Dean Garrity. Aline Gio. Jessica Harper. Nohoko Hayashi. Augusta Nopov. Pei Feng Li. Nikita Lukinov. Claire Lumsden. Ines May Hubeg. Aisling McCarthy. James McIntyre. Kaylin McKeown. Rachel McLean. Sire Pong. Owen Pickering. Emma Simpson. I beg your pardon? My poor. Gabriela Rodriguez. Emma Simpson. David Suarez Almeida. Joanna Stark. Gwyn Elizabeth Sutanto. Xin Yu Xiao. Zichan Xu. Linjin Zhang. In performance and pedagogy, Danping Li. In repetitorship, Rebecca Warren. In traditional music, Eleanor Dunstan. Christina Lasik.
Principal, in the name of the Directorate of Fair Access and with the authority of the Academic Board of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, I present to you these graduates who have been found worthy to to receive the degree of Master of Education in Learning and Teaching in the Performing Arts. Caroline Dickoff. Claudia Smith. Principal, with the authority of the Academic Board of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, I request that you confer the appropriate degree upon those graduates listed as in absentia in the programme.
I confer those degrees in absentia.
Principal, I present to you the winner of the Principal's Prize for all-round excellence in the School of Drama, Dance, Production and Film, Scotty Scott.
Principal, I present to you the winner of the Principal's Prize for all-round excellence in the School of Music, Anna Mikkels.
Well, you did it. You all got here. What a special day for us all to be celebrating with you, especially because the last few years have not been easy. They've been really challenging. I know it's sometimes been really tough, and there's a whole team of people who've been on this journey with you, helping to make it possible. I'd like to make special mention of some of them today. Firstly, your program teams and staff across the RCS who have given so much in different ways to support you and your learning. My warm thanks to all of you on their behalf. And another important part of the team are your friends and loved ones, some of whom are here in the Stevenson Hall, some of whom might be watching on screen, but they're here today. And can I ask all of you to be upstanding to applaud them, to say thank you for their love and support throughout your time at RCS. Please thank them. I'd again like to offer my congratulations to Dr. Garth Knox for your inspirational career and talk about listening and lucidity. Very much appreciated. So in contemplating what I wanted to say to all of you, I've been thinking a lot about time. My eldest daughter turned 30 this year. My father is nearing 90, and I am somewhere in the middle. And at times, the years seem to have raced by. But my dad can remember his childhood in New York City with the same clarity that I can remember mine in Delaware, as if it was yesterday. There are certain sounds, smells, pieces of music, passages of books that can take any one of us back to a time in our past, as if we're there again. For me, a warm, humid day, the thwack of a baseball, and I'm reminded that I really should have been practicing instead of playing third base this afternoon in 1979. Indeed, we're all here on this shared planet for a shockingly short space of time, the blink of a cosmic eye. Trees see more centuries than we do as humans if we don't chop them down. Geological time, cosmic time, galactic time, these are concepts that become hard for us to relate to because they're so much longer and slower paced. Humans are here for a short time, but we have this innate desire to leave a mark, to make a difference. It can be a guiding motivation. My dogs want to leave a mark, but that's based on territory and scent and, well, you know. But it's only humans that want to leave this mark, either with such ferocity and malice that they can become tyrants, seeking to impose their will, or with great love, some tempering of humility, that they want to care for one another, inspire one another, and share the stories of one another. And I know that performing artists fall, thank goodness, into this latter camp. The art we seek to create exists in a continuum of all the art that came before. However iconoclastic we seek to be, we use many of the same building blocks to structure sounds, words, steps, stitches that our forebears used and manipulated before us. And within each piece of performing art, there is its own continuum. You need the note before to determine the note after. You need the word before to determine the word to follow. The step, shot, or stitch all need to build upon the previous to determine the next. And just as we need the materials and motifs to structure a larger whole, so too do we need each other. No art has a rationale to exist in a vacuum. And although we create to express ourselves, we need others to experience it, and in doing so, give their own unique energy to the fleeting moments of the presentation of that art. We need societies that build on the notes and ideas of the past to shape a hopeful and even better future. So much we do has been built using the tools our ancestors would recognize, though technology has made us faster and more productive. It's also opened up new avenues in digital music, production, filmmaking, and dance, much of which we see and celebrate every day here at the RCS. But there's a new kid on the block, and it's making some waves, and it's marking some territory, and it's called AI, or artificial intelligence. And I'm equal parts excited and scared of AI's potential. And it's not just because I'm a big fan of films from HAL in 2001 to Her with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson. It's because a tenet that many of us hold dear, that humans are fundamentally creative and that creativity separates us from machines, may well be tested in the future. You know when you put your phone down and you really try to be in the moment with a loved one, a moment on a Scottish island, and a moment in a brand new film or play, you know what it's like when you laugh together, gasp together, or watch a show like Succession together. How much better it is than watching alone or listening alone with your headphones on or on a virtual screen. You can sometimes hear the coldness in an overly smooth digital presentation, so much so that we're turning back to vinyl in droves. We're seeking real food from locally sourced ingredients. We're fighting to escape the dominance of technology some of the time. Vulnerability and empathy are fundamental human conditions. AI might be able to mimic them, but I'm hoping we can spot the difference. At its best, AI can save time, provide a quick analysis of available data, help structure a talk or paper. In fact, it wrote this speech. No, I'm just kidding. But it will also have to make us work harder to express ourselves and all our frailties and possibilities with honesty. Slickness can be taken over all too well by AI. But honesty, individuality, camaraderie, experience, and authenticity will hopefully be our preserve. When we add these uniquely human emotions, desires, and feelings to our innate creativity, we'll create work that can only be made by humans for humans to celebrate our fleeting time on this tiny floating rock in space. And as graduates of this place, I urge you to go into the world, thrive, and continue to strive to make your art and your contribution to the world count. We're rooting for all of you, because in that striving, I'll know you'll share the stories and uniquely human emotions that express our shared human condition and divergent stories. To express the wonder that we have a chance to be here at all is something to strive for in our art. And in that striving, we'll rediscover why and how we're not AI, but alive. Congratulations to all of you, and good luck. This congregation is now ended. Please be upstanding for our graduates.